to the meditation. Time for new dose. So, how important, as you saw, in this pursuit of the final reality is aligning with the universe and finding your connection with the universe. And one way to find your connection with the universe is through doing what needs to be done, because you are placed in a given very specific situation. So that is what we call Swadharma. And along with Swadharma, also what we saw, which was that Swadharma also doesn't mean life is devoid of just expressing your desires, right? Otherwise it will become like very mechanical life. So therefore, in addition to doing what needs to be done, you can also express yourself in form of your specific desires. But don't run and let desires run the show. Because if desires run the show, if all the decisions are made based on what I want and what I desire at the cost of everything else, then there is a load. The more and more you use these desires to express all your talents and contribute to this world, then desires ceases to be a problem for you. When your desires are within dharma, which is what we call samadhi dharma, which is the universal ethical values, then in addition to swadharma, you can do things which give you certain joy and which fulfill you, which nourish you. But ultimately, what here he is saying, the dependency on desire leads to, again, what? The emotional traumas, because every desire that you have may or may not be fulfilled. So once you keep in mind that ultimate fulfillment is not going to come from these things, then you can have a proper relationship with it. And at the same time, these things are important for my growth. Neither you reject nor you are dependent on them. And that is what you are trying to achieve through this life of Karma Yoga. So therefore, he says, Atman Devatmana Tushtaha Sita Prajnasya Ujjati. Ultimately, when you begin to have proper relationship with everything, then this knowledge will begin to percolate through your being. Now, the next verse. Dukheshu anudvigna manaha sukheshu vigata spruhaha vitaraga bhayam krodhaha sthitadhir munirujyate. In addition to desires, which at times pose a problem for us, there are a few other things which at times create problems for us. Dukkha. Dukkha means what? Sorrows, right? Then bhaya. Bhaya means fears. Krodha. Krodha means anger. So that means, in addition to the fact that, it's not that you follow Swadharma and you follow your desires within Dharma, everything is going to be wonderful, because we find every human being finds oneself with series of emotions. And those emotions, again, as she very rightly said, it can't be ignored. You can't just say that, yeah, these emotions are just one function of the mind and they are mithya and I am satyam. So one needs to deal with all the emotions, and this is what the wise person has done. How? What the wise person has done? Dukheshu anudvigna manaha. So please, if you understand the nuances of Sanskrit, you will begin to see Lord Krishna does not describe the wise person as not having sorrow at the level of mind. He says the person can manage the sorrows. Anudvigna mana, not totally shattered, and doesn't enter into depression with the sorrows. Sukheshu vigata spruha. Certain situations in life will give you what? Certain pleasures. And you don't need to stay away from it. So, when I was giving a seminar somewhere, and it was a beautiful surrounding, and somebody just went outside the window, and they were appreciating the beauty of the nature. And she was saying, oh, how beautiful. And one of the participants comments and says, oh, you're not supposed to enjoy the external world because the source of pleasure is Atma. This is what we call pseudo-spirituality. Pseudo-spirituality, what does it mean is, it's not a real spirituality. It means that you artificially become spiritual and you twist this teaching to create some kind of an artificial person who is not deriving pleasure from outside world but only from Atma. He's smiling. So that means it's such a release where that you can enjoy. Does it create any problem? Sukheshu vigata spruha. You take joys in simple things. You can take so much joy. Nice meal. I take joy in all the beautiful breakfast Gita and Carl prepare for me. All these yummy things that they prepare. Wonderful. We don't get to eat all these yummy things in India. All these power shakes and... So that means you don't have to tell yourself, oh, food is material. I'm all detached, everything is the same for me, doesn't matter. You will become such an artist, nobody can relate to you. Because you are on your spiritual trip. Yes. So that means it is beautiful to take pleasure in things. Nice, wonderful. In fact, that's what life is meant. The other day, Gabby took me, she brought me by walking to this center. And she took me through all these small little streets of Bonn. And every street she took me to, I said, wow, this is beautiful. The buildings are beautiful. The tree lines are beautiful. There was sunshine, which was shining, and then there were some leaves falling. Beautiful. Beauty everywhere. All along I was like, wow, what a beautiful place. Then today Anna was walking and then she gives me information. This is Art Deco building. This is Roman style. So she knows even more. And her capacity to enjoy is even finer because she has more information.
But Neema, this is not a free pass to enjoy unhealthy food and beverages.
So that means. So what I'm trying to say is, begin to be what really appreciative of this whole universe in which you live. So, therefore, here he says, Sukheshu vigata spruha. Of course, as you say, what you derive your pleasure from, if your whole day goes in what you call pleasure, which is like this loud music, which makes you all zombie. Then yes, maybe there is a slight growing up to do.
Not ready yet to enjoy the simple pleasures.
Exactly. So that means that, but one thing we have to be careful. And that is, this is by the way, this is not my topic. this is just a little comment, that let's say you are 45 years old and you have begun to enjoy the finer things in life, and you want your 18-year-old kid to be like you, forget it. You will drive them crazy, and you will drive yourself crazy. So that means you can be what more and more refined, but everybody has their own journey, and there is an appropriate activities for appropriate age. And you have to give the person the freedom to perform the life journey. You can give your inputs, which can make the person more thinking, more discerning. But if you begin to control in the name of reforming the person, then actually it is counterproductive. So that means here we are not talking about anybody else, we are talking about ourselves. Because the whole journey of moksha is for somebody else. It was for Arjuna. Why was it for Arjuna and not for Duryodhana? Why do you think it was for Arjuna and not for Duryodhana?
Arjuna was ready.
Exactly. Preparation. Arjuna was ready and he asked for it. So therefore, our teacher used to say, we are not missionaries. You can't go on the road and tell people, hey, you know, why are you taking pleasure in discotheque? Why don't you enjoy the sun? You leave them alone. Or also, please, the worst, don't call them the ignorant lost souls. Not label them. Just they are who they are. And you have to be what you have to be. What this will do is, this whole agenda for the world, when you keep it off from your head will be much lighter. So therefore, the whole pursuit is about you. And the more you evolve, the more naturally you will become a source of inspiration from others. But if you begin to give lectures to others of how they have to be, they will run away from you. So therefore, here, the other job which needs to be done, so dukkeshu anudvignamanaha, the person can handle what? Dukkha. And the person can what? Enjoy different moments of happiness without being totally what? The problem that happens is, the minute you have happiness from something, we become what? We want to keep, there is a dependence. We need that object and we keep wanting to recreate that happiness again and again and again. So that means if one potato, what did we eat yesterday? Potato pancake. One potato pancake gives you pleasure, then you can't stop at one. You want a second, you want a third, and then stomach starts aching. So that means, so therefore, what we have to learn that is sukheshu sukheshu vigata spruha. I can enjoy that one and then I can say wonderful until it becomes what? Again recreating that experience, which again leads to what? Displeasure at night. Vigata spruha. Vita raga bhaya krodha. Bhaya Raga, we saw desires and having proper relationship with it. Bhaya and Krodha. Fears and Krodha. Krodha is anger. So the person has dealt with one's emotional life. So, as we all know, the emotions that you have today, imagine today you came to Gita and now you understand, okay, I have to kind of, knowledge of Atma is the final thing. And today you understand that I have to convert my whole life into Karma Yoga, by which I try to follow the universal ethical values and Swadharma, my duties and responsibilities. This will give lightness, it will give meaning, the nature of my contribution to the world will increase. Wonderful. But have you lived your life with this vision all along? We all have lived for 40, 30, 20 years. And how have we lived? Some things gave us pleasure, but we had our own share of what? Sadness, our own share of anger, our own share of what? Fears. How are you going to get rid of it overnight? By changing today of how you act, do you think that the past is going to just be erased automatically? No. So therefore, there is some need to look into the past. So therefore, but we use the knowledge of past not to get stuck in the past, but to help ourselves today so that we can free ourselves from the grip of the past. And this is what a Karma Yogi does. I'll give you one example. So that means Dukheshu and the Dukha and Krodha. I'll give you in one example because I have limited time. Now, I give many classes, many seminars and workshops. We go to do many programs together. And in one of the programs, one woman, she tells me that this is an example for what the anger and sadness that you are carrying from the past. So today you can decide to change how you act, but you are stuck with certain emotions which belong to the events that happened in the past. And they rule you. They rule your emotional life. So there is this example of this woman. She came to my seminar and she told me that when I was young, my father used to tell me that she had one sister. So he says, for this, and the sister, you know, in India, what happens is when you're fair, you're considered beautiful. And if you're dark, you're not so beautiful. Not everyone, but that's a common feeling. Yes, so she seconds it, right? So now, her father told her that your sister, I can get her married because she is fair, but you are dark, so I'll have to pay a huge dowry to get you married. Now when the girl is little young girl, now how do you think this girl will feel? The father says that I have to what, in order to marry you, you know what dowry is, right? You know what dowry is? Okay. You pay a little bit of money to that person who's marrying that person. Of money. So that means, so now this girl, she kept thinking what first her story was, that okay, the father will have to pay dowry. Then later on her story became, I'm ugly. The third story became, what, my father doesn't love me. This is a progression of a story which is based on events. They are not just random stories. And now she is herself married and with 2 kids, And she says, I still suffer from sadness and anger, both. I feel very sad that my father told me this. I feel very sad that I was not valued for who I was. And I also feel very angry, how can he do this to me? And I'm carrying this burden even today. And I have tried to go to so many self-help seminars. And I've been here and there and this and that, and they told me to look into the mirror and tell myself, I love myself, I love myself, I love myself. But nothing happens. I'm still stuck with my anger and my sadness. So how will this Swadharma, doing what needs to be done, managing desires, will help me release this anger and sadness that I'm carrying with me? Good question. Yes. So that means Swadharma, the answer is living a life of Swadharma and managing your desire will not automatically address this problem. You need to address it independently. That means you have to pay attention to this in order for, and you need to change the story. Now when you begin to change the story, then the emotions will change, but you have to be careful in retelling a story. If you start flying by saying, oh, my father loved me so much, then what? It's a fake story, fantasy. It will have no effect. Oh, everything is Ishvara. Oh, everything is Brahman. Everything is Atma. These stories will not do anything. Fake stories means not appropriate for that. So that means you first, I told her, hey, this is all looking at the mirror and telling, oh, I love myself and all, it's not going to do the job. The first thing you have to do is what? Accept the fact that given the fact that my father did this, as a child, I felt sad and angry, and it's totally okay. There is no child in the world who will not feel angry and not feel sad. So therefore, you can validate the child. But what you can do at the same time is tell yourself, as a child I felt that and it is fine. I could not have felt any differently. But today, am I a child? Today she is what? A mother of two. I need not be imprisoned. And I can't let that event dictate my whole life and dictate my whole emotional makeup. I have the capacity to free myself from it. And if I do not use this capacity to free myself from it, and if I keep repeating the same story again and again and again, and again and again and again recreating the same emotions, then I'm not living intelligently. So therefore, the person can say, today I'm an adult. As an adult, I can look at the whole situation, slightly re-look at the situation. My anger and my sadness was a result of a certain story. in the story, there were some actions which were true. My father did tell me. That is true. You can't deny it. But along with that, my story started increasing, which is what my father doesn't love me, I'm ugly. Is this truth or is it my own addition? My own addition. So that means you have to begin to correct your stories. Your stories have to distinguish between facts and fiction, your additions. Because your additions increase your suffering. So therefore, you can say, yes, my dad said it one thing. Maybe he did not say it in kind of a manner that, he doesn't like me. Maybe he was just observing the fact and he was just making a statement of fact. It has got nothing to do with how much in fact, probably he loved me a lot and that's why he was pained. Maybe the father's mindset was totally different. So this is what we call Pratipaksha Bhavana. Pratipaksha Bhavana, one way of thinking about Pratipaksha Bhavana is see the same situation from somebody else's standpoint. Because you had your own version based on what you took from it, but the father could have had a complete different intention behind it. That is one possibility. Suppose the father really felt the burden. Still, was father the only one with whom I was interacting? There were so many inputs which were coming from so many other people. There was my mother, there was my brother, there was my sister, there were my friends, there were so many other characters in my childhood. And they told so many wonderful things to me. And I'm not holding on to that. I'm only holding on to one thing and letting it dictate my life. Am I objective? Imagine you are a scientist and you have this group of data and you take only one little data and you make one whole big theory out of it. The whole theory that you make is all. This is what we do. Many, many, many different situations occur. Many, many, many people come in our lives, say many, many, many different things, and we hold on to one thing. And not only we hold on to it, we make it bigger, we give it more life than what it has. And we carry it with rest of our lives and we suffer. You can put an end to this story. Not by saying, oh, as a child I should not have felt this. As a child you felt it wonderfully. But today you need not feel what you felt as a child. That power you have and you have to help yourself. So therefore, you have to free yourself from your own imprisonment. We imprison ourselves with the baggages of emotions that we carry with us. Unresolved emotions, unlooked into emotions. Now, you can add one more thing in your refinement. And you can say one thing and then you can say, the father said this to me because of his value system. And he got his value system from his parents. And they got it from their parents. They got it from their parents. Who are you going to blame? When you begin to see whatever happens, each one is carrying what? Causes within causes, within causes, within causes, within causes among themselves. And helplessly doing things which they don't even realize. And we get subject to that behavior and we don't deal with it. And if we don't deal with it, we suffer and unfortunately we continue the problem. They say the kids who were abused in their childhood, when they were young, they feel very bad, but as an adult, they end up abusing the others. So that means the very behavior that you hated as a child, you end up being that as an adult. If you don't deal with it. But if you deal with it, you can put a stop to it. And when you put a stop to it, your emotional life will improve. And you will not pass on the same load to somebody else. And you do that other human being a huge favor. And that power is within you. You need to re-talk to yourself with kindness, with understanding. You have to nurture this person who is carrying certain painful emotions. You have to nurture it, you have to mother it. You have to learn to be kind with yourself. Validate and at the same time pull yourself out of this vicious circle. So therefore, this is what anybody can do. So I told her, because she told me later on that she's suffering so much from all this. Now I asked her, what is your relationship with your son? And she told me that my son hates me. She is carrying resentment towards her father. So what she did is over-control the son to be in a certain way so that the son is not like her father was. So you keep correcting your son and you keep telling him not to do this and not to do this and not to do this, and you become what? A nag. So she wanted her son to be a nice human being and not to make the mistake like her father according to her. But she ended up making the son himself, that my mom is like constantly controlling me, constantly giving me lectures how to be and how not to be. So this is what the minute you change yourself and you free yourself from this burden, the same minute I said your behavior with your son will change and your relationship with your son will also improve. There are so many interconnections in our emotional life. We don't see those connections. And that's why helplessly we feel what we feel. And helplessly we continue to give others a hard time. Helplessly. And the more you love the person, harder time you give. Because you unload everything. With others you have to be on a guard. You can't just say and do what you want. But the minute you get closer to it, those boundaries disappear and you begin to unload. And what comes out is all your frustrations, your needs, your everything that you have been carrying. So therefore, this is your lifetime of opportunity. Begin to first accept it and rewrite the story. Distinguish facts from fiction. Look at the whole story, which includes the perspective of the father and also other characters, which will automatically reduce the impact of the events. And tell yourself that even if she did it, there are causes within causes within causes. Who are you going to blame? And in spite of all these three, if you are still stuck, you have one more thing that you can do, and that is to pray. Pray. Pray for the strength. Pray for your having the power to help yourself out of this story which does not serve you anything. It only keeps you in that same mode of helplessness, small, anger, frustrated, not accepting yourself. How with this psychology you are going to understand the Vastu? Not possible. So therefore, this person who is a wise person has taken care of the emotions. Next. Prasade sarva dukkhanam anirasyopajayate prasanna chetaso yashu buddhir paryavasishtate. This fact about the causes within causes within causes is a little bit more elaborated in this verse, and that is one of the easiest source of affliction for all of us is when things don't go our way. Now, look at this. You are following Bhagavad Gita very carefully. You are saying, okay, knowledge is what I want. I need Swadharma in my life, duties and responsibilities. I need Samanya Dharma, universal ethical values. I need to have proper relationship with desires. I need to deal with emotions that are from the past, which are ruling me now. I need to do all of this. Wonderful. Does it guarantee that everything will happen my way when I do all of this? No. Another problem. Before I was just doing whatever and I was getting result. Now I feel I'm doing everything right and I still don't get everything my way.
But something has changed, right? The ability to deal with it.
Yes, exactly. Hopefully the ability has changed. But the fact that could be another source of frustration. There are a lot of people who are highly ethical, but they suffer from this dissatisfaction. I do everything right, but things don't happen my way. Another source of problem. So that means when you begin to live your life, there are so many sources which create a mindset which is not conducive for Vedanta understanding. So you have to undo all of this living in the world so that you can understand Vedanta. This is your challenge. So now, what happens when things don't happen my way? Again, I'm frustrated. Then I say, oh, now I'm doing everything right and still things don't happen my way. So therefore what? Life is unfair. You feel defeated. So now Lord Krishna says how to change that also. How? So this is where he says, please understand that you have a choice over action. You can choose. You can choose to be dharmic, you can choose to perform your duties well, you can choose to take care of your emotions. Wonderful. But what is going to happen tomorrow, you have no control over. There is a beautiful story of Lord Rama. He was highly ethical, very loved by everyone, very polite. Everybody loved him. And some circumstances that his own stepmother, who loved him very much, somehow got influenced by her servant. And she cashed in her boon and said, let Rama go to the forest for 14 years and let my son Bharat become what? The king of Ayodhya. A person who is so noble, the person who is so evolved, who is doing everything right and is kind and is polite and has proper emotions and everything, from one night where he was going to be the king to the next morning, he ended up in the forest. 14 years of exile. What would anybody do? They'll all break down and will not stop complaining for all 14 years about his stepmother. And feel helpless. How does he live his life? He understands the fact. What is the understanding? That the action I have a choice over, the result I don't have total choice over. I don't choose the result. If I chose the result, I would get everything my way. Then there would be no such thing called failure in life. So that means, oh my God, my whole life has been what? Trying to get the result that I want. Now I begin, the Gita tells me you don't have total control over result of the action. Oh, that is news.
But people compare and they will continue to find it unfair because there are people who will get lovely things and they are not so ethical.
So that's true. So that means what you need to understand is, yeah, they get lovely things, that's a little bit of a different problem. See, as I told you that let's say by cheating you get something, so for external person it seems like, oh, this person is getting away with cheating. But as I told you, there are certain feedbacks which is part of the universe which you can't avoid. Guilt, fear, low self-esteem, suspicion, the over a long period of time stress. Those are intangible. So you, in your vision, it seems like, oh, this person is cheating and getting ahead and I'm honest and I'm not getting ahead. So that means, that's why you need to re-understand things. That nobody gets away. Both seen result and unseen result. Even though it seems like they get away, but they don't. When you understand that, then you don't feel, oh, I'm honest and I'm not getting anywhere.
No, I would like to explain it to someone, but then I tell you will get it because it's the unseen thing. I explain it the easiest way I can, or I try, and then he said no, because he tells me he's in the moment. He lives in the moment. He doesn't.
So that's
it is
okay.
not convincing
So as
him when I say it will come.
Yeah, sure. So that's why what we are talking about, not only unseen result, we are also talking about seen result, right? So that means the guilt the person feels, you don't see it.
Yeah.
The fear the person has, you don't see it.
No, I'm talking about someone who's ethical, but who is not happy.
Yeah, so
Like bad things or subject. I don't know how to explain. For the person, there's no progress, even though this person is good to
yeah.
everyone.
So this is exactly what we are saying, that the person is ethical and things still don't happen. Like I just explained, like Rama, right? He was highly ethical. He was very, very evolved human being, and still he had to end up in the forest instead of being the king. The same, similar. Now, how do you keep your how do you keep yourself from feeling dissatisfied, cheated? Again, the same chain starts, same downward starts. So this is where Lord Krishna says you have a choice over action and not over result of the action. Now, once you make make the choice, the result which is not in your hand could be one of the four types. What? More than what you expect, equal to what you expect, less than what you expect, and opposite of what you expect. Everybody has experienced one of the four. Sometimes more than what you expected. Many of these people said, oh, I was resisting and they came and then now they love it more than what you expect. Sometimes you come with certain expectation and it is met. Sometimes you feel, oh no, I'm searching for experience less than what you expect. And sometimes this teaching you feel, oh, what is this? What is this oneness and all this? It doesn't make sense. And opposite of what you expect. That can happen anytime. So now, how do you keep a certain equilibrium? It is not easy to keep an equilibrium. If I tell you, oh, no matter what happens to you, you be the same. Is it possible? Not really. So that means, again, you need to understand something which will give you that equilibrium. This equilibrium is not an artificial thing. You tell yourself, I have to be the same. It is based on your understanding. Understanding of what? Where the result comes from. Where does the result come from? If you don't control it, where is the result coming from? Two possibilities. Either it is random, just whatever happens, or the second thing is there is a law which governs the result. Now, let's look at this possibility of random. Random means there is no relationship between what you do and what you get. If you were living in a world where there was no connection between actions and result, you will never be able to plan anything. Because there is no connection between your action and result. The very fact that you can say, okay, from 5 years from now, I want to become a doctor, so let me begin to study a little bit in my high school or whatever biology. That shows that there is a connection between action and result. Cause and effect. Cause and effect. You do this, you get that. Now, the cause, you have a question?
Isn't the problem that you expect something?
No. Expectation is integral part of action.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good. I'm constantly watching the watch because I have. Till when do I have? But this is a very, very important question. Do you have till what time? 6:15? It's 6:15 is okay?
Hmm?
Okay. Now, this is a lovely, I'm so happy you asked this question. Right? Because now look at this. You perform an action and you have an expectation, right? And things don't happen according to your expectation. Sometimes it's less, sometimes it's opposite. Then what happens? All the disappointment starts. If it is more or equal, more or less okay. More or less. More or less, it's okay. Now, so the easiest way is to what? Eliminate problem is what? Oh, don't have expectation. Because only when you have expectation, you can say something is less or opposite. And then you can't avoid disappointment. So let's not have expectation when we perform action. That seems easy way out, clever way out. But the reality is, try to perform any action without expecting result. It's
Motivation.
impossible.
It's good to have less expectations.
So, wonderful. So that means, okay, the other thing is, let's reduce our expectation. So now, yeah,
Negotiation.
exactly. So now let's reduce so that our disappointments are less. But sometimes opposite happens. You can't avoid it. So therefore, reducing expectation is also not an answer. Neither not having an expectation is an answer. You made your precious weekend time available to come here with no expectation. Everybody has expectation. Even from a spiritual class, you have an expectation to grow, to learn, to be a different human being, to have a different perspective. You can't. Expectation is a very integral part of performing action. You can't erase that. Every time your growth becomes not going along with the laws of the universe, you struggle. We struggle. So therefore, we have to realize that you can't just give up expectation. And you still have to deal with what? The opposite and less result. How? The only way is to understand. Understand that the result is coming from the causes. It's not random. It's coming from causes, and not coming from one cause, but series of causes. And all the causes you have no control over. But there is some kind of an intelligent design which puts together all these different causes so that the result comes to you here. So that means that things don't happen your way not because the world is unfair. Things don't happen your way because there are too many causes. And the number of causes that we are aware of, from that, our understanding, it may seem as though things are unfair. But in fact, if you extend the knowledge which you actually can't have of the causes, you understand things are in place. One example. Now, imagine that this same woman who's suffering from the father's saying, she begins to understand that this father's point of view may come from so many other causes. what his parents believed, what the society believes. And is he completely independent of so many different causes that are running his life? In that case, you begin to understand that there are too many causes within causes within causes within causes, which makes each individual what that person is. And the minute you understand that there are causes within causes within causes within causes, and you cannot control everything, but you still can do what you have to do to get out of this influence, what will you do? Even when things don't happen your way, you understand, you change the way you speak.
I have also an example.
Yes, please give the
If
example.
Rama wouldn't go to exile, he wouldn't celebrate Diwali. For example.
Yeah, exactly.
Or
Exactly. So that means everything that happens, exactly. So that means, now that is a good example. So now imagine that Rama, there are some causes which led for him to go to the forest. How does he live his life? He says, okay, there are some causes, which is what? He can't change the mindset of Kaikai. He can't change the mindset of his
Father.
no, the servant lady who influenced her. But what he can do is use this time that he had in the forest effectively. And that creates what? Some new causes through which he is able to what? Accomplish so many things. He doesn't use his time in the forest whining and complaining and saying how life has been unfair. He takes it as there are too many factors which intervene and there are too many people involved. And I don't have control over everybody's psychology. But I have one choice, and that is how I am going to spend 14 years in the forest. This is an opportunity. What does he do for 14 years? He goes and meets all the different sages. He goes from one ashram to the other. He holds so many interesting debates. He learns from all these great sages. And he also gives knowledge to some others. He saves so many sages from all the people who were attacking them. That means he moves on. Every life situation that you are in, instead of complaining, you can turn it into an opportunity. That possibility is given to you. But in order to use it as an opportunity, your dissatisfied person has to come to bay. And that will only come when you see the work of intelligent design. Causes within causes within causes, the intricate network of things which give you every situation that comes to you. Instead of labeling it in a given way or complaining it and blaming, you can use it as an opportunity for your growth. If you have trust in this intelligent design. No situation is coming to you randomly. No situation is coming to you unfairly. The world itself is an amazing network of causes. Too many things happen. And you can't basically control everything. But you can choose how you are going to act. And by doing so, what he does is, he's now then, not, in addition to the fact that he had to spend 14 years in the forest, his wife also got abducted. So now, what did he do? And he could have said at that time, I'm so helpless, my stepmother threw me out, and I'm in the forest. But not only that, my wife also somebody took away. My life is full of misery. And now, if I was in my own kingdom, I would have had my army to go and get my wife back. Now I don't even have any army. I'm alone, and I have to fight this great king Ravana, who is full of army, he is very strong. And what is my strength? Zero. I'm alone in the forest. Life is so miserable. What does he do? Interesting to watch. These stories are amazing stories. They tell us so much. He first is not afraid of showing his emotion. What does he do? He starts asking the trees, have you seen my wife? He's asking the skies, have you seen my wife? He starts asking the birds, have you seen my wife? Starts in a journey of search. One bird comes and says, I saw Ravana taking your wife. Oh, now he knows at least she's abducted and she's somewhere. Now, how do I get her back from this king who is very powerful and very strong? Then Jatayu says, there is one person who can help you. Who is this person who can help you? Sugriv. I don't know if you know the story of Ramayana. One person. Now that person who is supposed to help him, he goes in search. This is a problem-solving mind. Not a mind which is stuck. He goes and meets Sugriv. Sugriv himself is in exile because his brother threw him out of the kingdom. Look at the stories. So now he makes a pact with Sugriv and he says, I will get you your kingdom back, but after that you have to help me to get my Sita back. So he gives Sugriv the kingdom that was snatched by his brother Vali. And then he says, hey, now it's your turn to help me. And then there is this army of all the monkeys. And they all go and he gains Sita. So that means at all these situations he could have sat and whined and been helpless. Or he had a certain prasada buddhi. What is prasada buddhi? Understanding the fact that nothing comes randomly or unfairly. Things come as a series of cause and effect, and every cause and effect I don't have control over. That's why, by definition, many things will happen which are not according to what pleases me. But there is an intelligent design. And that same intelligent design which gives me series of events of my life, the same intelligent design also gives me an opportunity to free myself from this imprisoning emotion to a proactive life. Proactive life looking from problem solving. And the minute you convert your life into problem-solving life, what happens is, what he says, prasanna chetaso hyashu buddhir paryavatishtate. You will become cheerful. As you meet every challenge, you will become bigger. And you will become more enriched. And you will begin to have good self-image. So that is what he says, that the last source of disappointment was what? All the things not happening your way. Even that you convert. And by understanding that there is a series of cause and effect. Within that, what you can do is perform actions in a way, and that will hopefully take your life forward. So this is what we call the other, and now we will stop. Now there is a further change of topic, and the topic is Arjuna is asking one question, and the question is about a lifestyle. So what kind of a lifestyle should I have and to gain this knowledge? And then he answers that question. We'll see the answer tomorrow. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate.